Okay, so my name is Lev. As you know, I decided to make a presentation for you to understand a couple of the basic stuff you need to know about flight training and flying in Sudbury. Took me 12 hours to do this presentation. I just hope it's not going to take me a long time to do the video itself. If you find any mistakes in the presentation, which I'm sure they're going to have some mistakes, make sure just to let me know about it and I will fix the presentation. Maybe I'm also going to update the video at some point just to make sure that I'm not teaching you something that is wrong, but I'm definitely going to have some mistakes here. So, a couple of things. Every time I start presentation, I put something interesting in the beginning. One of the interesting stuff that we have here is that the magnetic north is always changing. Every year it changes, and we need to update it every year. And for instance, in our airport in Sudbury, runway 2204 used to be 2103 a long time ago, but yes. Slowly moving. It used to be in northern Canada, and now it's pretty much the North Pole here. This is the true north. This is the magnetic north. So PPL training. It's also a little bit applies to CPL, but mostly PPL. We're going to do almost everything here. We're going to start with familiarization, aircraft familiarization, auxiliary controls, taxing, attitude and movements. All of this is the first flight, pretty much. Movements just means how you're going to change the nose of the airplane, how it's going to bring. We're going to bring it up and down. We're going to bank it to the side, and we're going to bring it back straight. Then we're going to practice straight and level. Straight and level, it's just pretty much changing airspeeds and maintaining the same altitude and the same direction the whole time. Climb and descending. Climb descents, common sense, you know what it means. There are different techniques on how to climb, especially on how to descend. You have many ways to descend, and we are going to learn all of them. Turns, it means just to turn to a different direction. It's going to be gentle, medium, and steep turns. Not right away at the beginning, we're just going to start with gentle and medium. Flight for range and endurance. It means that we are going to configure the airplane to fly for the longest range that we can have on the same amount of fuel, or for the longest time that we can have, which is endurance. Slow flight, it's a specific speed that below that we're going to be in slow flight. It's a little bit hard to control airplane, so we're going to learn how to recognize it, how to control it, and how to recover from slow flight. Because if you don't recover properly from a slow flight, or if you don't recognize slow flight, we're going to enter into a stall, which stall is going to be the next one. And if you're stalling the airplane not properly, if you're stalling one wing more than the other one, we're going to enter to a spin where it can be a little bit dangerous. Not a little bit, it can be really dangerous. After spins, we're going to do spiral dives, which just means that we're going to lose lots of altitude really fast. Their speed is going to increase really fast when you're going to bank and turn to some other direction. And it can happen, especially if you're entering to a cloud by mistake, or if you don't pay attention, we can enter to a spiral dive. Side slipping, very important. Side slipping is going to be, we have two side slips. One of them is just called side slip, and one of them is called forward slip. Forward slip is just to lose altitude really fast. We're going to drop like a rock. And side slipping is going to be a technique how to land with crosswind. Then we're going to work for a long period of time, at least, I assume, minimum 5 flights, probably even more, on takeoff, circuits, and landing. Okay, it's all going to be together. We're going to fly around the airport, try to land, and then take off, land, take off, land, take off, until I feel that you are nailing it. Not nailing it, but until I feel that you're flying safe. And once I can see that you're flying safe, and you land and take off without any help of me for at least 3 circuits, then you're going to get released to solo if you have all the documentation ready. Illusion created by drift, we are going to experience it in circuits, and also in the practice area, we're going to work on it a little bit. It just when we have strong wind and when we are close to the ground, we're going to have some illusions that are going to make us feel like we are in some dangerous situation when we are not, or the opposite. We're going to feel like we are safe when we are in a dangerous situation. So we just want to understand and recognize it. Precaution landings, it means that you have some problem with the airplane, you have some problem with the passengers, or you just don't feel well, and you're not going to land at the airport that you plan to land on. It can be at any other airport that is on the way, or it can be just practicing and landing on the field. We are not really going to land on the field, but we're going to practice almost landing on the field. And this is just a training to train you how to recognize if the field is good or not good and how to land on it. Forced landing is engine failure. Whenever we have engine failure, we're going to practice this thing a lot. And it's a lot of procedures, but it's also a little bit skill that requires for you to understand exactly how far you can glide. Pilot navigation, my favorite portion, is we're going to do cross countries. We're going to fly from airport to airport to different places. We're going to use old school map and old school tables and old school pencil. Everything is old school there, just to get from one place to another place and make sure that you're not getting lost on the way. Instrument flying, it's 5 hours where we're going to fly and we are going to simulate as we are flying inside a cloud. So we're going to train on simulating that we're entering to a cloud and exiting the cloud. Okay, entering, controlling yourself, and then exiting. And the whole 5 hours is going to be under the hood. So you're going to cover your eyes. You're only going to look inside the airplane, not outside the airplane. And yeah, it's not easy at the beginning. It's pretty hard at the beginning, and then it becomes really, really like second nature. Night flying, it's only after PPL. Emergency procedures, the whole time you're going to practice emergency procedures. What happens if you have a high oil pressure, or what happens if you get lost, or anything else. Flight test preparation, once you're done with all the exercises, we're going to do the flight test, simulated flight test again and again and again until I feel if you can pass easily the flight test, and then I'm going to give you a recommendation for the flight test. Okay, so took us a couple of minutes just to go over all of the things we're going to do. It looks a lot right now, but it's really not that much. Before each flight, you have to study. You have to go over the book that I'm going to show you in a second, but you have to study specifically for each exercise. It's extremely important. Before each exercise, we're going to do a briefing, okay, including some presentations if it's the first time. And we are going to do a debriefing just to go over the good things that you have done and the bad things. Okay, a couple of things about what you need to get and buy. So we have apps and websites that I want you to make sure that you have them. For navigation purposes, we have ForeFlight. It's a really good app and also a website, but it's extremely expensive. It's about $300, $400, I think, a year. If you're just planning to fly once in a while, I don't recommend you to get it. It's too expensive. What you can get Fly Plan Go. Okay, it's a really good app, also a website, by the way, and it's completely free. It has all the charts and plates that you need to have to fly VFR, also IFR, by the way, for completely for free. And I have a video on the flight plan Go. Also going to make a video for ForeFlight on how to use it. Canadian airspaces. It's some guy just made it. It's not. It doesn't belong to the government. It's a really good website. I want you to play with this website. It shows all the airspaces that we have here around us. If we go to Sudbury, for instance, we can see Sudbury. It shows us all the airspaces, control zones, routes, everything. And on the left side, you can tick whatever you want to see and what type of control airspaces and what is the category of them or the class. Really good one. And you can remove, for instance, if you just want to see just class F, you just placing here, or class E, just class E, okay? Or you just want to see control zones, so it's C and D. Most of them also terminals are C, Charlie. It's really good website. You have to play with it to understand how to fly in Canada. Let's go back to our presentation. Weather. We have a couple of websites for weather. NAV Canada is the main one. It was designed by the government, so it doesn't work well. But it looks like that. Once you press on the link that I gave you, you're going to put, let's say, Sudbury. So Sudbury, it's called CYSB. This is Sudbury. And then you're going to tick whatever you want to check. I want to check just weather, just basic weather, let's say. Just matter of tab. I'm going to press search, and you're getting here the METAR and the tab. METAR is going to be the weather, the current weather, and the tab is going to be the forecast. and you have to know how to read it. It looks really terrible right now, but I promise you it's getting much, much easier once you practice it every single day. In this case, we have current weather for Sudbury. At this time, Zulu, which is UTC, the time in Greenwich. We have minus 4 hours or minus 5 hours, depends on the time. So the winds are variable, 0 to 2 knots. The visibility is 20 statute miles. We have few clouds. It means that we don't have many clouds at 1,900 feet above the ground, above the airport ground. The temperature right now is -1, dew point -6. Altimeter setting is 3040. And a couple of remarks. We have scattered clouds at I don't know why I say stratocumulus at 2. Like it's out of 8. It's usually when we have more clouds, you're going to see a little more, but right now it's just one type of cloud. And sea level pressure, it's 316. You're going to learn how to decode it. It's not really 316. Sorry, my throat killing me. Okay, so TAF. This is just the forecast. The forecast for Sudbury. This is the time when it was released. It's going to be from the 2nd until the 3rd of this month. Right now it's November. From 2 until 2 from 2 afternoon until 2 at night, Zulu time. The winds are going to be variable, 0.3 knots. It means that we pretty much don't have any wind. This is why we don't have a direction. It's just variable. It's not a good example. We have a better example here. I'll show you. We have visibility more than 6 statute miles. Overcast. It means that everything is going to be covered completely at 1,500 feet above ground, above the airport ground. Temporarily, we're going to have from the 2nd to the 3rd, again from 2 to 2, we're going to have temporarily broken 2,500. What it means it's temporarily our ceiling is going to be a little bit higher, okay, and a little bit less clouds. So broken is less than overcast. So it's going to be a little bit higher and a little bit less clouds. Means it's a little bit better for us. And slowly it's going to become from 7 Zulu until 9 Zulu. It's going to become, the wind is going to increase. It's going to come from 210. This is the heading. It's coming from at 7 knots. And the next forecast is going to be at 8 p.m. Zulu time. Okay. We can also add here NOTAMs. This is just going to tell us some problems with the airports, antennas that don't have lighting, or some cranes that they added for constructions and their locations and stuff like that. Or if some runway is not operative, or a taxiway is closed, or a runway is shorter right now, or anything like that. We have lots of things. I'm not going to go over all of it. You need to know them by myself. A big thing is clouds and weather and icing and turbulence. It's called GFA. Let's remove that. Yes. So I'm just going to tick the GFA, and we're going to get a map view of the weather. Okay, it's all over Ontario here. We are somewhere here. Right now we are right below high pressure. This is why we don't have any strong winds and stuff like that. And we can see this is a 12. This is going to be at 6 Zulu. This is going to be at midnight Zulu. You can see that the high pressure weather is going to move south, more east, south, something like that. And we have those clouds. You're going to learn everything in ground school. Right now it's here, it shows sky clear. It means that later on we're going to have sky clear. And here it's the icing and the turbulence. We can see that here we have some icing, and the red one is going to be turbulence. So we have some icing here in our area. Icing, always remember, it has to be temperature and moisture, visible moisture. And we are going to have some turbulence here, but it's really high altitude turbulence. And you can see it's high because you also can see it says CAT, which means clear air turbulence, which usually happen high. And you can see how it's moving away. And that's it for the weather. Extremely important to know how to use it. You'll have to print it for your flight test before you go for a flight test. And you're going to have some questions for a written exam about this website. Sorry, next page. Next thing is windy. Windy, I use it all the time. Windy, we can what good about windy? We can put the weather radar. We are not. I don't think we're going to see anything, but the weather radar is going to show us exactly where there is precipitation. If we zoom out here, Oklahoma City, there's crazy precipitation here, crazy thunderstorms right here, and you can see how it's moving. Press and play, and you're going to see how it's moving. 1 second here. I use it all the time, especially in the summer when we have lots of storms. It's really useful. Also, we can press on right click and show a forecast for this location. And then when we go at the bottom here, we're going to press Metogram, and it's going to show us the ceiling. So Tuesday and Monday, Tuesday is really bad. Monday is going to start being bad in the morning at 11 a.m. and then it's going to go all the way to Wednesday in the morning. So we already know that Monday morning, Monday, Tuesday is not flyable at all. And here we don't have any ceiling almost at all, which is really good. It means that right now, this is where we are right now. It means that before that we had a little bit of clouds, but now it's clearing up completely. And here, and that's it. Let's go back to presentation. And Avia Weather, I just checked it. It's only for Android. I always use it. It just gives me something like Nav Canada, but it gives me it it looks much better. It's much easier on the eyes. It's not for iOS. You have millions of apps for iOS to find for weather. Yeah, Flight Radar 24, really good website. I use it all the time just just because I'm interested, but also because it's a good practice to see how airplanes fly. So if we go here, my internet is really slow today. So most of the features here, or most of the basic features here, are for free. And here you can see all the airplanes. You can see how many airplanes we are flying here. It's crazy. It's insane. And this is just Canada. In the States, you can see what's going on in the States. Okay, so we can go here to Sudbury. So there's an airplane here. It's no, it's not landing. It's going from London, like England, to Chicago. So it's just passing by us. It's a probably really high altitude. It's a Dreamliner, 36,000 feet. And another one. It's also not landing here. Yeah, there's no one is going to Sudbury right now. Tiny airplanes from North Bay came all the way from North Bay until Midland and then turned around. That's interesting. Wondering why. And there's another one over here. This is just flying from Waterloo, Kitchener. There's a helicopter here in North Bay. No, it's not a helicopter. It's a wrong symbol. Yeah, it's a wrong symbol. No, it is a helicopter. That's a wrong picture. So yeah, you need to be interested in aviation to be a good pilot. And another thing, combined with Flight Radar 24, it's liveatc.net, which you can listen to the radio. You can just press here CYSB, and then you're going to listen to the radio of the ground, controller, like tower, center, all this stuff. For us, we only have radio, like Sudbury radio, so we're going to listen to Sudbury radio. You're also going to listen here, I think, to Toronto Center. There is no really ground and tower here. It's wrong. Okay. Yeah, done with this thing. Couple of government websites that you have to know. It's not a recommendation. You have to know, and you have to know how to use them. Compared to other professions, when you have, if you're interested, you can go and check that. Here, you must know that. You have to know how to find things there. So cars, it's Canada Air Regulations. It's all the regulations that we have here. Okay, it's written in a terrible. I can't press here for some reason. Okay. Fortunately, I can't press here because the recording button is right there. So let's press here. It's written in a really complicated way, like law, like it's only for lawyers. But you have part 1, 2, 3, blah, it goes up. We need to know pretty much part 6, which is all about general operating and flight rules. We also need to know a little bit about part 4, which is personal licensing and training. we need to know everything a little bit about everything, but mostly we need to know how to find things when we don't know the answer. In the future, also going to use 7, which is commercial operation, if you decide to go to commercial. So here we have trying to find something, visual flight rules, whatever it is. Let's see what it is. I'm pressing on it. So here it explains everything, definitions about all the stuff. And you can see there is infinity here. And this is how the rules are written. Cars, it's called, this is how we call it. Cars 40207. The holder on blah, 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 blah. Okay? So you need to know how to read it. For me, it's extremely hard to read it because it's all in crazy English. Over the top, what's the definition of VFR over the top? Special VFR. It tells you everything. What's the minimum visibility that you need to have and all the stuff. You don't need to memorize everything, but you need to know how to find everything. Next is the aim. Aim takes pretty much the cars and adds a couple of more things and makes everything a little bit simpler. It's a PDF or a book. It used to be just a book, but now it's all PDFs for free. You can press on the link. And it shows everything in English instead of this lawyer English. It shows everything in English, even here it's sometimes really complicated. But every time you're not sure about something, you can go. It explains exactly how to read weather, about the rules. It explains to you about the airspaces, about the IFR, VFR, here all the airspaces. And it's much simpler English. Even here it's not super easy. Yeah. But we all the time, pilots all the time use the aim. Pilots all the time use the cars. We all the time use it because we can't remember everything. We forget everything all the time. We have to go back and make sure that we understand the law because it's your responsibility to know that. So that was the aim. Flight test guide. You have to know the flight test guide. Here specifically just PPL. If you're doing CPL, go for CPL. If you're going to do RPP, go to RPP. But you have to know that the examiner is going to ask you, his first question is going to be, did you read the flight test guide? If you tell no, if you say no, the flight test is over. You have to read it. We are going to go over it together, by the way, at some point. But it's extremely important for you to go over it as soon as you feel comfortable about most of the exercises, because it tells you exactly what you're going to have. So steep turn, what's the definition of steep turn? What's the minimum, what you need to do in steep turn? What's the error? Okay, how much you can, how much can you, when do you fail? Pretty much, okay? So you're not allowed to fly more than 100 feet. If you're supposed to be 4,000 feet and you go to 4,101, then you get 2. Okay, which 2 in the marking is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is the best and 1 is the worst. 1 is failed right away. And yeah, explains you everything. The examiner cannot ask you anything outside of this document. Okay, it means that if it tells you, well, make what is it? Slow flight and maintain 50 feet. No, it tells you plus minus 100 feet. Okay, if you keep plus minus 100 feet, you're going to get 3. He can't give. He's not allowed to give you 2 if you flew plus minus 100 feet. He has to follow this stuff. He's not allowed to ask you for some crazy stall that is not here. Only the stalls that are here. Okay, he is not allowed to do anything that is outside of this document. This is why it's so important for you to go over that. Flight test guide. We just passed it. License requirement. Also important. Everyone all the time thinks that the instructor's responsibility to know all this stuff. No, it's your responsibility because you're getting the license. You can pass the flight test and not having your, and still you're not going to have your license, because if you're not done with all the requirements, you're not going to get the license, even if you pass the license. If you pass the flight test. So here, let's go to PPL, private pilot license, and yeah, so it's going to tell us everything. The age for PPL. PPL, yes. 17 years old of age. Okay, you have to be 17. You have to have category 3. For applicable holds category 4 medical certificate for purpose of student pilot permit, the application shall upgrade to 3. Okay, so if you have 4, to get the license, you have to have 3. Okay, for the license itself. Yeah, here it says that if you have 1, it's also 3. It doesn't matter. And it tells you everything that you need to know. All the experience is the most important part. By the way, how many hours you need to have, and how many out of those hours it needs to be dual, how many it needs to be instrument, time on the ground. And it's 5 hours instrument total. How many cross countries you need to have, how many solos you need to have out of that, how many solo cross country you need to have, all the stuff. Everything is there. Okay, so make sure that when you do your training, you didn't miss anything in your training, because then they're going to send you back the application for your license, and then it's just going to take much longer to get the license. Okay, let's continue. So books from the ground up, it's not all the books you need to have. You need to have much more information, but generally this is the minimum that I could think about. Okay, that you need to buy. So from the ground up, you can press on the links. They all go to Brampton Flight Center store. You can buy it anywhere. You can buy it online. You can buy just the digital version of some of them. I don't have any affiliation. I don't care where you buy it. You just make sure that you have it. From the ground up is just the ground portion of your written exam, or the written exam. Sorry, it's a preparation for the written exam. For the written exam, you have to have a recommendation letter to even get the written exam. To do that, to get the recommendation, you need to go to a flight school with ground school. Because we don't have anything here, I recommend you to go online. You have a couple of schools online that are going to give you a recommendation letter. The only one that I know, it's called pilottraining.ca. So you can go and do that from there. You don't have to do it from there, but it's the only one I know. You have lots of lessons there, presentations, videos, and all the stuff, lots of quizzes, and preparation for your written exam. Once you pass all of them with a good mark, they're going to give you a recommendation letter. It takes about 3 days to get a recommendation letter. You take the recommendation letter and go to Transport Canada for the written exam. Flight training manual, extremely important. It contains all the exercises. Okay, just click on this one just to show you. There is somewhere a PDF version of it. I think you can look for it if you want. But this is how it looks like. Okay, purple book with all the exercises. Oops. Okay. CFS. It's a thick, super thick book, like 1,500 pages that you need to buy every 56 days. That contains all the information about all the airports in Canada. Okay, I have like a land airports and water airports. For us, it's land airports. It contains all the information about them. You have to have an up-to-date CFS. The good thing that nowadays we can get all of this in Flight Plan Go or for Flight. Okay, so Flight Plan Go, it's for free. You can also buy the book. I always recommend to students to buy the book twice. One time for studying, because it contains lots of information that explains about how to use the CFS, how to read everything, and it's much easier to use the hard copy. And the second time is to buy it for the flight test, because it's much easier to find the information when the examiner asks you something on the spot. Okay, you don't have to. You can use the digital one as long as it's up to date, and you have to prove that it's up to date. PTR, pilot training record. Okay, it's just a small logbook, let's call it this, for just for training, and it has to be up to date. You all the time have to update it. Every flight we need to write down what you have done, even if it's a solo flight. And in the end, to get your license, you have to submit the PTR to Transport Canada. So you can't lose it, and you can't cheat there, and you can't postpone things. You have to write them down right away, because otherwise you're going to forget. You can't make any mistakes. For any little mistake, they're going to send it back for you to fix it. Logbook. Logbook is just for you. It's a personal book. It's every pilot has it. It can be physical one, like here that I attached it to the logbook, to the link, or it could be a Excel sheet that you just made by yourself. I have one that I just made by myself. as long as you keep it safe, as long as you have backups, like hard copy backups, is let's say you print it once in a while, you can keep it digital. If you have some problem with digital stuff, if you don't know how to backup it, if you don't know how to make sure that no one can hack it, whatever, just get a physical one. Most of the pilots still have the physical one. I also have a physical one. I just have an extra Excel sheet. Flight test notes. It's kind of like a textbook, workbook, whatever it's called, that contains lots of questions the examiner can ask you on the ground, because you have two portions for the flight test: ground portion and flight portion. And the ground portion is going to ask you lots of questions. You have lots of questions in this book that you can ask from. I recommend you to buy it. I recommend you to go over 100% of this textbook. It's not going to give you all the questions that possible, but it's going to give you lots of questions that's going to help you to get the idea of how it's going to happen, how the flight test, especially the ground portion of it, is going to happen. Accessories. Again, you need to have way more accessories than that, and just some basic minimums that I thought about it. E6B is just a piece of metal. I want to show it to you. They call it computer. It's not computer at all. It's this thing. Always get the metal one. It's really good for to fly in the air and calculate a couple of things that we'll have to calculate in the air. On the ground, I don't use it at all. On the ground, what I use is the CX3, which is the same thing, just looks like a calculator, and it's much easier to do the things on the ground using that one. So I recommend you to buy both of them. Then headsets. If you're not flying a lot, just buy the cheapest one. If you're flying a lot, buy the most expensive one. They're worth it. VTA, VNC, it's just maps. We are not going to use the VTA here almost at all, because it's just for Toronto in this area. But the VNC you have to have. It's in this area we need to have two maps, okay? And the area of Toronto and the area of Timmins, because we're right in between them. And you have all of them, by the way, in your apps for Flight to Flight Plan Go. But for the flight test, you need to have the paper one. So we are going to practice on the paper one. Okay, we're not going to practice on the app one. This is particularly just for checking the headings, directions. Sorry, on the map. Knee board is just how to you're going to put it on your knee, and you're going to write down all this stuff about the calculations, headings, tracks, and all this stuff. And ruler, it's to check the distance on the map. Okay, couple of things you need to do. So what do you need to do? Medical, most important part. Right away, you have to do that. Okay, CPL 1, PPL is 3, and RPP is 4. 4 is just you go to your family doctor with a form. You have to file a form, and he needs to send this form to Transport Canada, but it's much faster. But it's only good for RPP and for solo flights. Okay, if you're doing PPL, you go for Cat 3. If you're doing CPL, go for Cat 1. Just remember that if you have like a month before your solo, you still didn't get your medical, definitely you should go and get your category 4 even more than a month before your solo, because you don't want to postpone it. P-STAR is just an exam. It's like a written exam that we do for PPL, but much simpler. You have all the guide and all the information here in the link. Use it. But you have to have it. You have to do that, the exam. Restricted operator certificate. Okay, aeronautical. It's called ROC A. It's just about the radio. How to use the radio, how to talk on the radio, all the stuff. Study guide here, go over that. It's going to take you, after you're done with the exam, it's going to take at least 2 weeks until you're getting the certificate. Okay, SPP. You have to have SPP for solo. And why did I tell you to do all this stuff? It's because to get SPP, you need to have a medical, P-STAR, okay, and language proficiency test if you need one. So you have to tackle all these things right away at the beginning. This is why it's pretty good to start flight training in November, because you still have lots of paperwork you need to do, and you need to practice for the written exam also. So to start in November is pretty good. And just remember that for solo, when you go to solo, you have to get permission from a flight instructor no matter what. Okay, now for the interesting stuff. It's a couple of things about how to talk on the radio and how our airport looks like and how the practice area looks like. So let's start talk about it. Okay, so Google Maps. This is where our airport, Sudbury here, North Bay is here, Manitoulin Islands are here. Okay, so the airport is on the northeast side of Sudbury. If you're going to use Google Earth, this is what it looks like. It's right here. And if you're using our charts, VNC, this is where our airport. Okay. So you can see this is our control zone, class E, Echo. Okay, and this control zone class E Echo with a FSS inside just means that there's someone there that we are going to talk to. It's not a controller. It's not a controller that is going to tell us what to do. It's someone that's called FSS, Flight Service Station. They're just going to talk to us and listen to what we're going to do. Okay, he cannot control us. He cannot tell us what to do. Okay, CFS. Remember I told you to buy the book? So here, this is the page about Sudbury and CFS. And you need to know how to read all of it, almost all of it. I would say like 90% of it, you need to know how to read it. Some of the things here are for IFR flights, so you don't need to know, but most of it is relevant for VFR. Okay, let's start it. I'm losing my voice. So first of all, dates. Every 56 days, you need to make sure it's up to date. And then we have the name of the airport, which is Sudbury. And because it's located in Sudbury, you only have Sudbury here. But if the name of the airport was different than the town that it's nearby, you're going to have the town and the name of the airport. This is the code, CYSB, you have to memorize it. This is the code of Sudbury Airport. Okay? If you had another big airport here, somewhere on the west side, east side, doesn't matter what, it's going to have a different code. And that way we can make sure that we are not getting confused between the airports that in the same city. So if you're checking weather, if you're doing navigation, it's always CYSB. This is the GPS location where it's located. The airport is located 11 miles northeast of the town of Sudbury. The magnetic, I don't want to go to it too much, but the difference between magnetic and north and true north is going to be 10 degrees, magnetic variation. The UTC time, the difference in time between us and the UTC is going to be -5 or -4 hours, depends on the time of the year. Elevation 1143, but it means it's probably, if we don't have anything else in the CFS, probably the circuit altitude is going to be about 2100, which is 1,000 feet above ground. It's going to be located, Sudbury is located on a VNC map name A5000 and also on VNC map A5001, which is Toronto and Timmins. It's also on IFAR charts, low 4, high 4, and high 5, and it's also on CAP, which is Canada Air Pilot. It's also for IFR, but I also added one of the pages in CAP about the map of the aerodrome charts. Sorry, aerodrome charts of Sudbury. The operator is in the municipality of Sudbury. This is the number. If you have some questions for them about the airport, where to park, where to fuel, or anything, it's certified, not registered. It means that Transport Canada checked this airport pretty well. Public facility is not important right now. Customs, we have customs. The rest is not important. Flight plan is not that important, but once we're going to do navigation, we're going to file a flight plan using those guys, and we're going to check the weather using those guys. And we also have weather here and forecast here. Okay. Services, this is very important because we're a big airport. We have everything. We have all the fuels and oils that needed. Specifically for general aviation, it's just 100 low lead, 100 LL. Okay, and this is our fuel. Runway data. And we have runway 04, which the heading of it is 040, 22, the opposite side, 220. It's 6,600 feet and 100 feet wide. It's on asphalt. Runway 12 is not exactly 120, it's 116. Okay, just round it up to 120 and then they name it 12. And this is the opposite side, length, the width of it, and the type. And the runway 12 is upslope of 0.3 degrees. Okay, percent, not degrees. And a couple of things about IFR, it's not important. Aprons, you can't use all the aprons, you have to use only ours. Runway conditions, it's also less important for us right now. Lighting, it's for night and IFR. For each runway, you have different lighting. Comms, extremely important communication. So radio, we are going to talk to radio. They're called Sudbury radio. Okay, it's not a tower, it's not ground because we don't have a controller. Okay, it's radio because we have FSS, flight service station. Someone that sits here, you can also even see it here on the map, and they can talk to us. They can give us some information about the airport, and they can give us some information about traffic coming in or leaving. But they are not going to tell us climb 3,000 feet or turn left or whatever. They're only there to help us with information. We have also something in the future going to learn. It's going to be a flight information service en route on this frequency. Just going to be guys that helping us. They're sitting in London, like literally sitting in London, and they're going to give us. They can give us weather information, NOTAM information. They can help us with filing flight plans or amending them, and they're going to be on this frequency. And it's called RCO because it's remote communication outlet. It means that they're not really sitting in Sudbury, they're sitting in London. 80s, it's the weather on 127.4.4. They're going to give us all the weather, and they're going to give us registration. I don't know why I said registration. They're going to give us a letter, okay? So every hour is going to change. It's going to start with A, B, C, D, blah, blah, blah. Every hour is going to change. So Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. So going to give us the weather, and the end is going to say information Charlie. So once we have this information Charlie, when we start talking to radio, you're going to tell them that we have information Charlie, and that way they know that we have the most up-to-date weather. Clearance delivery, IFR, it's not for us. MF, it's the same frequency. I'm not going to go over it why, but just means that our control zone is 7 miles, radius up to 4,000 feet. ASL, above sea level. PAL, it's mostly for IFR, but it's also useful for VFR if you want to fly to, let's say, to Berry, and we don't want to just be alone on the frequency. We want to have some control on frequencies that can help us a little bit and watch us, so we can talk to Toronto Center. Okay? They're not going to separate you from other VFR traffic or something like that. They're not going to separate you from the ground, but they're going to going to advise you about other traffic. Okay, and usually they're really going to separate you, by the way, but they don't have to. And navigation stuff, it's DIM, it's just an instrument that tells you the distance to the airport, and ILS, instrument landing system, just instruments that help us to land in IFR condition. We are not going to use it. Pro, extremely important to know the Pro, because it's going to give us some additional information. Usually if it doesn't have any information, all the circuits are left hand. In this case, it tells us right-hand circuits, runway 22 and 30, okay? So 90% of the time is going to be always left, but sometimes they have a reason to put some of the circuits on the other side of the runway. And it's really useful, not really useful, it happens usually when you have a big lake or something on one of the sides, or a town that you want us to avoid. Caution, extensive float, ski, helicopter traffic in the vicinity of Azilda, which is a water airport on the west side. ADF 1228, this is the frequency we're going to talk to those guys on Azilda. And a Coniston, which is an aerodrome 8 miles south of Sudbury. It's also air traffic, and we're going to talk to them on 1230. Okay, Sudbury aerodrome chart. It's mainly for IFR, but just I use it a lot just to look at the map, and I use it a lot when I'm using the app. You can put it on the app on both of them, and it's going to put your airplane, so it makes it much easier to taxi. At the top, it's just frequencies. Here, it just tells you the length of the runways for IFR purposes. You have different, not even IFR, it's for commercial purposes, let's say like this. You have different lengths for different reasons. Here we can see runway 1230, it's 5,000 by 150, and runway 0422, 6,600 by 150. And we can see We have apron 1, apron 3, apron 2, okay, the names, and taxiways. Bravo, it's all the way here. Then we have Alpha. I have no idea why it's a different name, by the way. Then Charlie and Delta. And we are located right here. So we're going to, if you want to taxi to 30, it's going to be Delta to 30. If it's going to be taxi to 12, it's going to be Delta, Charlie, backtracking 12. We are going to taxi on the runway and taking off. If it's going to be runway 04, it's going to be Delta, Charlie, backtracking 12, backtracking 04. And if it's going to be 22, it's going to be, by the way, don't memorize it. I have another slides for that. I have a couple of slides for that. If you're going to 22, it's going to be Delta, Charlie, backtracking 12, backtracking 22, and then we're going to take off. Okay? You have the altitudes, the elevation, sorry, for each corner, for each runway, 1128. You can see they're a little different, 1143, 1143, 1130. And here in the CFS, you can see it just shows us the highest one. But here you have the exact one. This is the DME. And this is the lights, runway threshold lights, different lights, as you can see. This is RVR, just for IFR. And this is the variation that we have here. Tells us that this is north, but this is magnetic north. And yeah, that's it. The rest of them, it's all IFR here. This is all IFR stuff. Departure. How are we going to depart? Okay, how are we going to depart? So I have a small cheat sheet at the end of the presentation. You can print it and take it with you to the airplane at the beginning, just not to get confused with the radio calls. So this is where the airplane is located. We're going to push it to here, going to do the run up here, and then we don't want to pass this, to cross this line before we talk into radio. How are we going to do that? Putting the airplane here, done with the run up, we're going to talk to 80s, check 80s, not talk to them. We're going to check the weather and get the letter, the information Alpha, Charlie, whatever. So then we are going. This is going to be on 1274. Then we're going to switch to radio, Sudbury radio 1255, and I'm going to tell him Sudbury radio. This is Cessna 150 Foxtrot Lima Echo Victor. Just any registration. I just put my name there for fun, but it can be any registration, phonetic numbers, letters. Foxtrot Lima Echo Victor with information X-ray. Okay. Then we're going to wait for them to respond. They'll tell us go ahead or what are your intentions, or right away they're going to tell us to squawk some number, which is squawk means just put a number in our transponder. That way they can see us in the radar. That way they can see exactly who we are in the radar, to be honest. They can see everyone with transponder. Then once it tells go ahead, state your intentions, we're going to say Fox Charlie Micro Victor on Chemex apron or any apron that we are on. For runway 30, we'll taxi on Delta, departing to the west practice area, 4,000 feet. All it means that where we are and how we're going to taxi to the runway we're going to use, and where we're going to depart and what altitude. Okay, it's really complicated beginning, but you're going to see there's nothing there. There's literally nothing there. It's just where we are, which runway we're going to use, how we're going to get to this runway, and what we're going to do after we take off. And they will let us know if they want us to call back to them at some point, which they usually have at least 1 or 2 call backs that they want us. So it can be call line up when we're lining up to the runway. It could be call airborne once you're in the air. Whenever you're stable in the air, then you're going to call them. Departing the zone when you're leaving 7 miles away from Sudbury, this circle that I showed you before that. Whenever we're crossing some runway, if we need to cross runway, they're going to ask us, they can ask us report crossing the runway. It depends mostly about other traffic that they have. If they see the airport is busy, they're going to ask you to report more. If the airport is less busy, they're going to ask you to report less. After that, we're going to taxi here on Delta, get here, do a couple of more checks at the runway checks, and then Sudbury radio, Fox Charlie Micro Victor, lining up, runway 30, departing to the west practice area 4000. Okay, and we're entering, taking off. 1, 2, okay, similar thing. We're just going to going Delta, Charlie, backtracking 1, 2, taking off. Okay. 0, 4, same thing. Okay, there's nothing here. And 2, 2, same thing, just the opposite direction. That's it. Once you get the idea of it, it doesn't matter which runway you're going to use. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. It's all common sense. Okay, so how do we depart? Usually, unless told you otherwise, we always depart at 1,000 feet above ground. It means we are taking off, flying runway, heading until reaching 1,000 feet above ground level. For us, it's 2,100 feet above sea level. And then we're going to turn to wherever we want to turn, continue climbing to whatever altitude we want to climb, and let them know that we're just doing it. Okay, so we can see, let's say, we just took off. We're going to let them know. Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor, airborne, runway 04. Okay, and here, let's say we took off. And then once we got 1,000 feet above ground, we're going to tell them Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor, departing right hand, west, climbing for 1,000. That's it. There's nothing there. And then once we clear of the zone, this red circle, big one, around Sudbury Airport, we're going to let them know Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor is clear of the zone to the west for 1,000. And now we can switch to a different frequency. Okay. So which frequency? We have the practice area. Okay, this is how it looks in the VNC. This is the official map. This is the only map that you need to use. And you only want to use the names that are on the map. You don't want to use other places that you know from Google Maps or just because you know them. And because other pilots don't know about these places. We're only using the names and the towns and the landmarks that we can see on the map. Okay, so we can see the control zone, Class E, Echo, around Sudbury Airport. We can see the airport itself. We don't want to be in this area at all. We are allowed to fly there, just letting them know, but we prefer not to be there because we don't want to interrupt with other traffic coming for landing or taking off. You can see here it's 4,000 feet ASL or 2,900 feet AGL. So we took off, we departed west, and we're going to practice in this area. Okay. This area has a little bit, it has a couple of more airports, aerodromes, whatever it's called. We have Azilda here on the southwest, which is a water aerodrome. We have another one here, and we have a land airport aerodrome right here. And how do I know that? And how do I know how to talk to them? There's one more page after the CFS, after the Sudbury CFS page. There is another page. It's called Sudbury VFR Terminal Procedure Chart. Okay, and here we can see it's not for all the airports. It's just for areas where you have a couple of airports next to each other, or with some airports that are busy and need to have a little bit more explanation how to fly near those airports. You're going to have this VFR Terminal Procedure Chart. So we can see Sudbury here, Class E up to 4,000, from surface to 4,000. You need to talk to radio. And then we have a Zilda here. It's ATF. It just means that no one is really listening to you. It's just talking to everyone, to traffic. On 1228. So everywhere here, we need to switch to this frequency. Okay, it goes up to 3,900 feet. Then we have Ramsey Lake, which is on this frequency, and Coniston Airport Aerodrome on this frequency too. So if we want to fly here, we can fly. There's nothing that tells us not to fly, but we need to be on this frequency. Okay? If you're flying above 3,900, we need to be on route frequency. If you're outside of those areas, we need to be on route frequency. And on route frequency everywhere in Canada is 1267. Okay? And I'm going to give you an example in a second. So just remember, this is where you find it. You find it in the CFS after the page for Sudbury. So this is how it looks on Google Earth. Assume, of course, I don't know how to make the circles look nice. So assume that you have a full circle for Sudbury, full circle for Azilda, and you have the leftovers of these two circles. Okay, and this is all the frequencies that you need to use. So in these two circles here, and they're not full circles, they're just partial for circles, you're going to use 123. Here, 125.5. Here in Azilda, 122.8. And anywhere else in Canada, anywhere else, you're going to talk on 1267. Okay, you have some specific areas where they're so busy that they decided to give another frequency. For instance, north of Brampton, north of Toronto, there is a specific frequency. In the area of Niagara Falls, there's a specific frequency because it's so busy. But usually, anywhere else, you're going to have 126.7. You're going to be on 126.7 the whole time until you really high altitude. Doesn't matter. You're not going to get 12,500 feet. Okay, and now let's give an example on how we are going to talk on the practice area frequency. Once we're clear of the zone, we're going to switch to 1267 and say traffic in the area of Val Karen. I don't know how to say that. Karen, I don't know. I don't care. Cessna 150, Fox Lima Victor, 2 miles to the east of Val Karen, 3,000, heading west and climbing for 4,000. Okay? So who are we talking to? Who we are? Okay? What is our location? What is our altitude? And what we're going to do? Simple as that. And it's always like that. Who are we talking to? Who we are? What are our location and altitude and what we're going to do? Okay? Let's say right now we flew a little bit farther to the west. And now again, traffic in the area of Valkeren, Cessna 150, Fox America Victor, 5 miles to the west of Valkeren, 4,000, doing upper air work, 4,000 feet and below. Okay, it's just practicing. There is nothing wrong about talking to Azilda, for instance, saying traffic in area of Azilda. There's nothing wrong. We don't have to choose Valkeren. There's nothing even wrong to talk to Sudbury Airport. To relate to Sudbury, not to talk to Sudbury Airport, just to put our position relative to Sudbury Airport or to the town of Sudbury. It's just mostly common sense. Okay, you want to have big places where everyone knows about them, and just talk to relative to them. So you can talk to anything that you want. Just don't find some tiny place on the VNC map that no one knows. It's some Broadway intersection that no one even knows about it, and talk to that. There's no point. If there is here tiny road intersection that has a name on VNC right below us, I would still not going to use that because I assume that no one really knows about this place. I'm still going to use Valkeren or Azilda that everyone knows, or Sudbury Airport or Sudbury Town. Let's say we practice, we're coming here and coming back. We want to go back to Sudbury, and we don't want to waste time. We want to cross through Azilda ATF. There's nothing wrong about it. We can fly here. There's no problem. But we need to switch frequency to them and tell them it's not called Azilda, it's called Whitewater Traffic. Cessna 150, Fox Lima Victor, 4 miles to the north of Azilda, 3,000, heading to Sudbury Airport, switching frequency. Okay, so we're flying and we're just letting you know that we're about to leave in a second because we're switching frequency. Nothing wrong about it. We're going to do it all the time. You want to use common sense. Okay, you don't want to use to fly, for instance, low here in the area of the lake because there's lots of traffic there that's flying over the lake, coming in and out. Okay, and if you do that, if you want to join the circuit, you can do that, which is weird, but you can do that. But you need to let them know and make sure that they understand it. Yeah, when you're talking to a location here, the bottom left side, I just wrote, when you're talking to a location, just say traffic in the area. When you're talking to airport traffic, Zilda, which is a whitewater, traffic, or Coniston traffic, or whatever traffic, you're going to say whitewater traffic. This is how you're going to talk to them. Always use big left marks, like I said before. Okay, you decided to go back to Sudbury. You're done. We want to go back. So we are right here, somewhere farther away. First thing, we're going to check weather, 80s. Every time we're going to control to airport with 80s or any weather, we're going to check first the weather. Then once we check the weather, we're going to tell everyone that we are flying back. So traffic in area on 1267. Traffic in area of Valkeren, Cessna 150, Fox Lima Victor, 7 miles to the west of Valkeren. 4,000 inbound for landing at Sudbury Airport, starting the descent, switching frequency. Okay, so we told them where we are, who we are talking to, who we are, where we are, and what are our intentions. Then we're going to switch to Sudbury, radio 1255, 5 minutes before we enter into the zone. Okay? At least 5 minutes before entering the zone, we have to talk to them to get airport advisory. And how do we do that? We just say, Sudbury Radio, this is Cessna 150 Foxtrot Lima Echo Victor with information X-ray. Exactly what we did before we took off. Then we're waiting. And then Foxtrot Lima Echo Victor is 12 miles to the west of the airport at 3,500, inbound from landing on runway 30, and we'll join right downway 30. Okay? Or whatever you want. We have to tell them how we're going to join. And then usually they tell, usually, not always, but usually tell us report entering to the control zone. So once we enter into the control zone, Sudbury Radio, Foxtrot Lima Echo Victor, entering the zone from the west 2,500 because we already started descent. Okay. Couple of things about circuits. So runway names are always the headings of the aerodromes. They're rounded up a little bit, but yeah, or down, rounded down or up. All headings are magnetic in the southern domestic airspace. Altitudes are above sea level, 2,000. This is 2,000 feet. And all circuits are left-hand unless told otherwise in the CFS. How do we join the circuit? When we are in something called MF, mandatory frequency, this is what Sudbury is, we are going to join through the green or blue arrows. Okay, we just have to state it on the radio. So what it means? It means that we can join from straight to left downwind, for instance. We can join straight to 45 degrees to the downwind. We can join base, we can join final, we can join over the field, and then mid left downwind for the runway. Whatever you want. When we are doing just uncontrolled, when you're coming from landing with uncontrolled aerodrome, which most of the airports in Canada are uncontrolled completely, we only can join through the green arrows. It means straight to left downwind or over the field, mid left downwind. It means if you're coming from here, we can't just join the downwind. Or if you're coming from here, we can't just join base. We have to go over the field and then descend to the circuit altitude and join mid left downwind. And we are not allowed to cross the downwind at the downwind altitude, at the circuit altitude. We are not allowed to. We have to fly above. But because we are in MF in Sudbury, we can do all the arrows, blue and green. So here I just give you options for all the runways. Let's say joining 30, you're just going to tell them you're going to join right downwind 30 because it said in the CFS, which 30 is right hand. Okay, for example, make a vector, right downwind 30, join then base, right base, and then final, and then clear, down clear. Then if you have 1, 2, we can just go straight to final, for instance, and landing 1, 2. 2, 2, right base, and then final, because 2, 2 in the CFS, it's right circuit. And 0, 4, left base, and then final. Okay? Don't forget to say when you're backtracking on the runways, just to let them know that you're still on the runway. And before I go here, sorry, at the beginning, it's really confusing how to join the circuits. I promise you, after some practice, especially if you practice by yourself at home, okay, you don't need to fly to do that. You can practice, once you practice a lot, you're going to see that it's really simple. You're not going to overthink it. It's just really simple. You have only a couple of options how to join the circuit, and that's it. So, how to understand where we're flying? You need to know, you need to practice all the time. So first of all, go over the maps. For us, it's just VNC. All the time, go over and memorize some of the places, the big landmarks. Then you can use Google Maps on Earth. I use it all the time. Use Google Earth Pro. The Pro version means that you need to download it to your laptop or computer, and you can use their flight simulator. There's a tiny flight simulator there that no one knows about it, but it's pretty good. It's super simple. But it's good to practice the locations. It's good to practice procedures. Or you can use Flight Simulator 2020. Soon we're going to have 2024 even. It's also really good. Remember, you're not practicing skills. You're practicing procedures. Okay? You're practicing knowledge. You're not practicing skills. So you don't need to have good landings. You don't need to have good anything. All you need to do is to practice the procedures. Okay, the procedure says ABC. You're just practicing ABC, and it's an extremely good tool to practice procedures. Okay, so Google Earth Pro. You have a link. You can Google it if you want, and you just press here and download it. Then you go to Tools, enter Flight Simulator or Control Alt A. Choose the airplane that you want to have and start flying. Okay, try to be close to the ground, to the runway, because otherwise it doesn't know exactly where to put you. And this is how it looks like. I tried to start it here. Okay, this is how it looks like. You have you can control the brakes with the arrows to the left and to the right, not the normal arrows, the ones next to the question mark that you have. This is the brakes, and page up is going and down is the throttle. Okay, so just practicing here. This is how I literally do it by myself. Even I have more than 1,000 hours, I still do it in new airports and new environments. Let's stop here. So I have the line right in front of me. You can see here, and I'm going to say, this is how I practice. I'm going to say, check the 80s on this frequency. Okay, I checked the 80s. Okay, let's switch to that frequency, 1255. Okay, and then Sudbury radio. This is Cessna 150, Fox Lima Echo Victor with information Charlie. I'm waiting. Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor and KMX Apron. We are going to depart runway 30. Taxi on correction on Delta, and departing to the west, climbing 4,000. Okay, now they told us good. They're all happy. Page up. It's really hard to press page up on my laptop. And now I'm taxing. And let's say I'm not going to slow down too much here. Here, this is the line that we're crossing now. Going to the left. Have too much power. And now I'm in Delta. And I just talk to myself all the time. Okay, it's really hard with this laptop. I can do this. Remember, it doesn't need to be accurate. You're not practicing skills. You're only practicing procedures and knowledge. And this is the place where we're not allowed to cross usually, but because we already told them, they said it's all good, we're crossing it. And we're going to tell them, Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor, lining up runway 30 west to departure to 4,000 feet. And then we're going to here, and they probably told us, okay, report airborne. Okay. Then full power to do this. Page up. And now you're going to use the mouse. You're going to press one time on the mouse. So you have this plus sign. And you're just going to use the mouse like a joystick. Okay, let's say we have speed. And I'm going to talk to myself again. I'm going to say, I'm stable, everything is good. Okay, Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor, airborne 30. And then I'm going to tell us, okay, report clear of the zone. Okay, we're coming, flying. And you can see the red circle in front of me of the control zone. Let's assume I already passed it. I don't want to waste time. I'm going to say Sudbury radio, Fox Lima Echo Victor, clear of the zone to the west at 1,700. And that's it. Okay, and then I'm switching to 1267. Let's say traffic in air of Sudbury Airport, Blizzard, correction. Fox Lima Victor, I'm getting confused between the jobs. Foxtrot Lima Echo Victor, 7 miles to the west of the airport at 2,000, heading west, climbing 4,000. Done. Practice it again, and again. You'll see it's how simple it is. Okay, let's switch to the different, to the slides. Okay, weather minimums. A couple of things just for you to understand when we are going to fly, when you're not going to fly. Crosswind, solo, the crosswind maximum 5 to 8 knots. At the beginning, 5 knots, then 8 knots. For me, because it's a 150, I still don't know exactly my limit. It's between 15 to 20 knots. Okay, on a Cessna 172, I can land even with 25 knots easily. Ceiling, the cloud base. If you're doing upper air work, for instance, stalls, slow flight, and stuff like that, we are going to have 3,000 above ground, which is usually above the airport. So the base of the cloud has to be minimum 3,000 feet. If you're going to do lower air work, it's going to be about 2,000 feet. If you're going to do navigation, diversions, precaution landing, stuff like that, 2,000 AGL is enough. If you're going to do circuits, it's 1,500. If you're doing solo, add just 500 for all of them, for each of them. Sorry. Precipitation. If you're doing solo, you're not allowed to fly in rain or snow. If you're going to do dual, we can fly together when there's light rain or light snow. Okay, I'm going to make sure that it's not going to affect negatively training on the training, because if the visibility is not good, it makes it a little bit harder for you to understand your attitudes. But if it's good enough, if it's fine, we can fly. There's no problem with light snow, rain. This is your cheat sheet. You can print it if you want. You can take it to the airplane, and that's it. Don't forget to smile. Remember, let me know if you have any questions. If you find some mistakes, let me know, because I'm sure there are mistakes here. If you find spelling mistakes, also let me know. And that's it. I hope that we're going to fly soon.